Hey, Kingdom Dream Chasers. All right. So, we are going to have a conversation today about the pieces of your business. All right. So, the preposition that I want you to think about is you don't need more pieces, but you need the pieces that you have connected. I'm going to give you some data during this podcast. I'm going to give you some very specific things to be thinking about, some really important questions to be asking yourself that if you dig into these, you truly can really see some significant change in your business. The most important thing I want you to hear is that there was, and I'll reference this again later, but that there was a massive piece of research that just came out about the online buying power. Over 36 million customers in the online coaching space buying courses, things like that. And what they discovered was the key indicator of a business that can generate reoccurring income, which is that not the goal of every entrepreneur, that there is a sense of consistent income that is coming in on a regular basis, that we're not always starting and then stopping and starting and stopping because it's exhausting. So the key indicator of that business was not all of these different pieces, which I'm going to address in detail in this episode, but it was that those pieces were connected. And we're going to talk about what that means. And I really think this is going to really bless you and really open up from a business building perspective, looking at your operations and the way you're moving through your business very differently. So here we go. We're going to start with this idea that if you've been in business for any amount of time, I want you to think about something for a minute. How many things have you created? I work with clients every day, and some are leading a corporate business, and some are trying to create an online consulting business to go with their in-person consulting business. Some are leaving a network marketing business and wanting to move their coaching skills into a different area. Some have a current business, brick and mortar business, but they want to move into the online space. So regardless of where you are, every one of them starts putting pieces of a business together. For example, maybe you've written a book, maybe you have a lead magnet. These are pieces that can help support attracting people into what you have to offer. Maybe you have an email list that you've been working on creating. That is a piece of your business. Maybe you have a Facebook group. You probably have a social media plan, hopefully a consistent one that you're using to market and post and attract. Maybe you've even held a live event, a live class. You might call it a workshop or a challenge or a master class. You might have an offer. Hopefully, you do have something that is solution based that helps people, that provides hope, that if they enter into your product or your service, their experience in life is going to change in relation to that product or offer. You might even have a CRM, which is a custom relationship management tool that allows you to create automatic schedulers and automations. So you might experience the very struggling, stressful feeling of a business owner that's struggling, feeling that, wow, I'm doing all these things. I've got all these parts and pieces, but I'm still not experiencing a consistent flow of income. I have a moment. It's kind of like if you've ever played golf and you hit that beautiful shot and you think, man, I could be really good at this game. But the next 10 shots are awful, or the next times five times you play, but you're just chasing that elusive moment where you had that wonderful experience. Well, many entrepreneurs I work with come to me with that kind of situation. They know that they've got a good offer. They've had some great experiences with their clients, like they've hit that great shot, but the whole game is not coming together. So one month is good, the next month, where did everybody go? Where did my game go? What happened? So, what we tend to do in that moment is we start looking at all of those individual pieces. Maybe the way the copy for the book isn't right. Maybe the email sequences that going down. Maybe what's going on in Facebook. Maybe Facebook just isn't working anymore. We start looking at the individual pieces and we start saying things like, maybe my lead magnet's just not working anymore. Maybe I need to redo my website. Maybe Facebook's not working anymore. Maybe I need to change my offer. Maybe I need a different strategy. Maybe I need to post more or start doing reels or video. Before you know it, you're changing another one of those pieces. But what if the problem is not the pieces? What if the problem is that they're not connected? That there is not a systematic connection from one piece to the next. And we're going to walk through what that looks like. So, this is what we're talking about today. There's a huge difference, all right, difference between having marketing pieces of a business versus having a client acquisition system. It is a system that walks that right fit client or customer through a journey, step to next step to next step in a systematic way so that you, as the business owner, know what's happening next. And she, as the customer, knows what's happening next because she's being invited to that next right fit step. So, what I see Christian entrepreneurs doing and getting caught in a lot is this. They work hard, they've invested income, time, they've learned a lot, they've created a lot of things, right? A lot of those parts and pieces, but no one's ever helped them look at the actual architecture of the whole business. And I want to pause right here to talk about what architecture, all right? Because when you think about the architecture of a structure, what is the point of an architect? The point of the architect is to help you create a structure that is going to do what? Be sustainable when everything gets in there, right? When the tornado comes, when the rain comes, the roof is going to hold, the walls are going to hold, the foundation is not going to crack. That's the point of good quality architecture. So an architect helps you build something that is sustainable. And I believe with my entire being that God calls us into kingdom business, one, of course, to increase our intimacy with him, but it is to create something that is life-giving, not just for the women that we serve, but for us and our family. And if we're building something that is crushing, that is overwhelming, that is discouraging constantly, now don't hear what I didn't say. I'm not saying that we're not going to have obstacles. Scripture is very clear. We will have obstacles, but every single one of them is used to strengthen us, to equip us to be able to serve at a higher level. So, I want to talk to you again about the statistic that I brought up at the beginning. I recently came across this, literally, I think just this morning, a fascinating piece of research from an online entrepreneur, online software that over 36 million customers' buying patterns were looked at. Okay. And what it confirms is that the businesses who generate consistent income, okay, there is one very key indicator, and the key indicator is they have a connected system. I'm going to say that again. The key indicator of consistent income in a business is a connected system where one experience for the client leads naturally to the next and the next and the next. So a post might lead to a community. A community might lead to a value-based gathering like a live class. A lower level offer might naturally lead to a higher level of support. There needs to be somewhere in the relationship for that person to go next. It is connected. You, as the entrepreneur, know when anyone is in your trust ladder, I like to call it, in your system, in your customer journey, you know where they are and you know exactly what to invite them into next. So, this is what I'm trying to help my Christian sisters see in their businesses, because sustainable revenue is not created by some magical tactic that you're out there searching for. It actually comes from a customer journey that not only you know what it is step by step, but she can feel that natural step and she wants to take it. So let's make this really practical. All right. So someone sees, these are some questions I'm going to ask you. So hopefully you have pen and paper. If not, you're going to want to come back to this. So someone sees your post today. Great. Then what? What happens? Is that post inviting them to a next step? Are you seeing their reaction? Are you inviting them to say something? Are you inviting them to take some kind of action? Is it the kind of action that they're naturally going to want to take? Or are you stretching it too far out? asking them to take too big of a leap. So what happens then? Maybe you invite her to download a free guide. Wonderful. What happens after that? Are you manually trying to follow up with these folks? Do you have a tracking system where they go on a piece of paper, they go in a Google sheet? What happens after that? Does she go on your email list? What happens when she's on your email list? Is that just, where's the email list? Is there an automated nurturing sequence that goes out after that that introduces you to her and the different things that you can invite her to? What happens? Maybe she gets invited to your Facebook group for a little mini training. Well, what happens after that? If she comes, if she doesn't come, what happens to either? What happens? She gets invited to come to your face-to-face live class once a month. What happens after that? There needs to be an intentional journey that you're tracking to find the connections each step of the way. So what I had to face, and it wasn't fun, but it's made me a stronger businesswoman, was that having all the pieces did not mean I had a system. And I had to understand the consequences of not having the system. It was causing delay, frustration, irritability, lack of ability to serve, causing me to want to keep chasing and fixing when the real problem was I needed to integrate. So hear this, okay? A system means that every piece knows their job. Every piece of the system has a job. It has an intention. Your post has a job. Your Facebook group has a job. Your lead magnet has a job. Your live event has a job. Your offer has a job. The offer after the offer has a job. Okay? Your email has a job. And it knows that you're telling it exactly what its job is to do. And you know what it is. All right. They're intentionally connected to move that ideal customer from each spot to the next. And in each of those movements, she's increasing in her trust. Now, that's a flow. And I like to call it a kingdom flow because it's not just for her that it's flowing. It's for you and your business so that your business has that sense of sustainability and rhythm so that every day you wake up knowing this is what I'm doing. This is where my customers are. This is who I'm following up with, and I know what to invite them to next. So I want you to think about the customer journey like a road, okay? If I gave you 6 beautiful sections of highway, but never connected them, you couldn't drive from Virginia to Montana, right? You would just have these 6 different beautiful sections of highway. And a lot of our businesses are like that. There's some beautiful different sections, but they're not connected. Each individual section might be beautifully paved. There might be nothing wrong with those individual sections, but there's these big gaps in between because you don't have a road. You just have the sections. So that's what happens in our business. The lead magnet might be good. The Facebook group might be good. The emails might be good. Your live event, your offer, all might be good, but they're not connected. And so we get trying to fix one of those individual things rather than making sure that they're a connected system, bringing flow. And yes, do we need to then track that flow and watch what's working and what's not? But are we revamping all the time? No, that's exhausting. It's not sustainable. So, your potential clients keep arriving at the end of that road with nowhere to go. They don't know where to go next. They may show up at your profile. Do they know where to go if they show up at your profile? If they read a post and they don't want to comment, but they go to your profile, if they go to your website, is there a place for them to go? They're not going to book a call, most likely. What is the next step that you have for them there? So maybe you're saying things like my lead magnet doesn't work. Well, what's the job of your lead magnet? Because it's not to sell someone a $2,000 offer, right? That's not the job of a lead magnet. The job is to help that right fit woman raise her hand and say, I'm interested in that problem. I relate to that problem, and I'm interested in that solution that you have in that lead magnet. So what happened? After she raises her hand, what happens to her in your business? So maybe you've said something like, my Facebook group isn't working. Facebook groups don't work anymore. I'm going to go over to something and do something else. I'm going to go to a different platform. I'm going to start a whole new thing that's going to create massive new amounts of energy. All right. Which, by the way, what is all that massive new energy keeping you from? Serving clients, being with your clients. So, what does working, if the Facebook group isn't working, what does working mean? How are you defining that? What is the job of your Facebook group? If you know the job, it's like you have to give each of these things a job description. And then you have to decide, is that job description meeting its goal? And what's the goal? To get them to the next step. That's the goal. Okay. So if there's no intentional nurturing, no conversations, no next step, the Facebook group isn't necessarily broken. It might be that the next step is simply not there. The journey is incomplete. Maybe you've said, I've marketed, but my live class didn't convert into sales. Okay, well, what happened to the woman who loved the class, but she wasn't ready that day? Did the relationship end? Or did your system know what to do to invite her to the next step? That matters. Okay. So this is why I don't believe that you need to stay in the trap of constantly creating more. I see so many business owners exhausted in that trap. More content, more freebies, more offers, more platforms, more strategies. Sometimes you don't need another thing, but what you need is to connect and track the things you already have. Put them together, integrate, make the system, know what the customer journey is. Give the things that you've built a chance. That's business architecture. And it's one of the biggest shifts that happens when you stop thinking like someone who's simply trying to make more sales and start thinking like the kingdom CEO of your business. A CEO doesn't ask, did this piece work? She asks, is the entire system performing? Where are people entering? Where are they engaging? Where are they getting stuck with that road that doesn't have a next step? That piece of road? Where are they dropping away? What is the next logical step at each stage? What needs to be strengthened? What does not need to be rebuilt? So these are different questions, but they're all about the operational system. So it even matters more when it's a kingdom business, because I know that God brings us into what we're doing because we are worthy of good stewardship. Our assignment is worthy of good stewardship. The women that he's called us to serve are worthy of being stewarded well. The leads that we have. I don't want to spend all my day and energy asking God for more people when I'm not taking care of the women that he's already given me. Think about that. God, bring me more clients. Help me find more women. Grow my audience, increase my reach. Sometimes maybe God's saying, what are you doing with the ones I already gave you, Gail? Are they being cared for? Are they being nurtured? Can they tell what the next step is? Does your business have the capacity to continue serving them after the first interaction? That is stewardship. So I want to give you a very simple exercise now. Take out a piece of paper if you don't already have one, and write down the journey that someone takes through your business. Start with, how does she first discover you? Is it a post? Is it in a networking event in person? Is it you're drawing everybody to your website? What is it? How does she first discover you? And then where does she go next? And then after that, what happens next? Keep asking that until she becomes a client, and don't stop there. Because what happens after, if she's a client for 90 days, for 6 months, what happens after that? What is the next step, the next problem after she gets through that section of working with you? What is her next problem that you can help her with? All right. 50% of sales come from your warm audience that has already bought from you. I'm going to say that again. 50% of a business's sales comes from the people who've already purchased from them. It comes from them purchasing again because you've built the trust. You've proved that you can help them. They are your most likely next buyer, and many businesses are just sending them off to go buy with somebody else. So As you're drawing this out, you might discover I actually have all the pieces. I don't have all the pieces that I need yet. And that's okay. But you might discover I have a lot of the pieces, but they're not connected. So you don't need a new logo, a new website, or another lead magnet. Step back. Look at the business like a kingdom CEO. Look at the journey you want to invite her on. Look at the architecture. What needs to happen for these pieces to start working together? I want to invite you to something that's opening. And depending on when you're listening to this, it's called the Kingdom Business Accelerator. And I help you build the very system. And we do it in 90 days, step by step, one at a time. You start integrating the parts and pieces. You might have no tech, which means you don't have a Facebook group yet, you don't have a lead magnet yet, you don't have an email list yet, and that's fine. Or you may have some of those parts and pieces, but you're realizing they're all over the place and you need an integrated system. So wherever you are, look at your infrastructure, know what your offer is, your solution, your message. Make sure you're talking to your right fit woman. Okay. So if you're interested in knowing more with working with me, you just message down below, Gail, I'm ready. I'm ready to talk to you about next steps. It might be that coming into a very small intimate group program, because my group programs have a max of 5 women, because that's how intimate they are and how much I am focused on helping you get results. Or you might want one-on-one. Either way, we can talk about if it's a right fit. If it's not a right fit, I will tell you that, and I'll either refer you to someone or I'll let you know what steps I think you need to take before you're going to be ready to invest. If you want to work with me in the group program, you're going to need at least a minimum of 3 hours a week where you are committed to fully dedicating to building your system. And if you don't have the time, then you're really not ready to build a business, because you've got to build the operational system, the infrastructure that actually can carry the weight of the clients that are coming. Okay. I'm going to close up with, I was talking recently to a client and we were talking about her system with her social media. And in the program, I teach a content gathering and then a 30-day content mapping system so that we stop being led and kind of doing social media by the seat of our pants. And instead, we are creating campaigns that are integrated, that are helping her take those next steps. And it's all together and making sense. And so she was telling me that she was finding it difficult to break away from the kind of daily decision make. Oh, I'm going to post about this today. I'm going to post about that today. She said it was feeling easier to do that than it was to build the system. And I get that. But the problem with that thinking is it's just short-term thinking. Because I said to her, okay, I understand that, but let me ask you a question. If God gave you 5 new clients tomorrow, what would happen to your social media? She said, well, it would basically stop. She said, if I'm being honest, it would stop because I would just be solely focused on serving those new clients, those new teammates, and working with them. I wouldn't have time to be working on growing. And so then what happens when she's done with those clients, she has to start all over again, building that audience and keeping that flow going. So if you're serious about building a business, you've got to be serious about building the business system. Otherwise, in all honesty, and I'll always speak truth, you're really just wanting to build a little bit of a business, more of a hobby-based business, and kind of just do what feels good on a daily basis. And that's okay, but own that. All right. Because that's not the same as building a business. All right. That's having some online sales, and having some online relationship occasionally. That's not building a business, and that's okay. But own what it is, make the decision, so that you can pursue the activities that lead you to what you're actually wanting to build. All right. So check out the show notes, connect with me. I look forward to spending some time with you and seeing how I can support you in your dreams and your goals.